Hello, welcome back. Oh my goodness, my screen looks very fuzzy and cloudy. Let me see, what do I have that I can clean it with? See if we can make it better. Hang on. It's going to go dark for a minute, but it's okay. I'm right here. It's all going to be all right. Oh, that's better. Hi. How you doing, y'all? uh, Well, thanks for stopping by. I missed another upload last night. I was working so very late and I got busy and then the time was past and I didn't even realize it. So I always feel guilty when that happens, but I'm getting back to it. I'm going to do better and upload every day. My daughter said, I haven't been able to listen for a couple of days. And so I thought, I'll go binge while I'm working today. And she said, and I went and there weren't very many. And I was so disappointed. So I had gone a couple of days. Oh, I have like a sore on my lip. Anyway, I felt kind of bad because I did skip out for a couple of days and I didn't upload as much as I should have. And she was all disappointed. And then I was like, oh, it matters. Like people care. Wow, that's kind of cool. So I'll do better. Now, before I get started, what did you have for dinner? I love to cook. I love ideas. I love to hear what people are eating. Put it in the chat. I made a veggie bake, and I do this probably not as much as I should because it's so dang good, but I do it fairly often. And I just pretty much cut up some of every vegetable we have, whatever it is, into, and you try to do like your carrots and potatoes, you do small because they don't cook as fast, and your broccoli and mushrooms, you do bigger pieces, so they all kind of cook and are done the same. So you don't have burnt broccoli and raw potatoes. But I just cut up. So I did carrots, celery, potatoes, onions, mushrooms, broccoli. And I was going to put summer squash in, but my pan got too full. I have a little square pan and it was full. And chicken. And then seasoned it really good and put some cilantro and basil in it and garlic. And it was so yummy. And then I just serve it. So it's all veggies and meat. It's so yummy. And then I just put some sour cream and we just like dip it in sour cream as we eat it. And it's so good. And that's what I made for dinner. But I also made a batch of bread, fresh bread that got done right before dinner. So we had a couple of slices of bread and then we ate the veggies. So, and then for dessert, we're just going to eat oranges. We got a bag of oranges and they're really good. So we're just going to peel some oranges and have them for dessert. And then I'll show off a few of the things that I've made because I can and because it's fun. I love it. I love showing it off. They're all earrings for tonight. I just kind of grabbed some stuff that was on top. So look at these. How cute are these? If you can see them. So they have teeny little, I don't know how well you can see. I'm trying to adjust them in the light so you can see. But those are little rose charms over the purpley marine. Oh my goodness, look how well they match me. That's like perfect. Anyway, they're really, really cute little earrings. And they're not real big. You can see how I don't know. The light's not good, but they're this side there. The light's better on this side. That's about what size they would be. So cute. And then these ones, look at these. Now the cool thing about, because most of the stuff I do is resin, is even these bigger ones, like these are round all the way around. So it's a whole ball, so they're still light. They're not heavy. You know how a lot of people have, when they wear heavy earrings, it actually stretches their earlobe and the hole gets bigger. And I heard one lady describe it as like, my ears look like cat buttholes. I was like, oh, wow, that's graphic. I need to go get them stitched up. But these aren't heavy. Even the bigger ones are still light, so they don't pull and stretch your ears. And people who wear these big earrings and you can see it pulling on their ear and it looks funny, right? I love how light these are. And that's what a lot of people have told me. They'll say, I usually only wear tiny stuff because I don't like heavy that pulls on my ears. I love these. They're so light. And people will actually buy bigger than they usually wear just because it's lightweight. So these super cute. They have the cool green. So they have the metallic green flakes inside. So they look really sparkly and cool, but it's not a glitter sparkly, it's metallic sparkly. And then the cute little butterfly charms hanging off the bottom. So cute, right? They're adorable. If anybody wants any of these, message me. They are for sale. And then these ones. Little music note with real dried flowers down in the note part. So cute, right? I love the music earrings. So there you go. That's all what I'm showing off for today. And then we will get started. And then just a reminder, we're doing Anne of Green Gables next. And probably, I mean, it's not just going to be the book Anne of Green Gables. It's going to be the series, because I think you can get, different, because I think if you read all of the series, there's a lot of them, because it actually goes through Anne and her life, but then it also goes to her daughter and then her daughter's life and different. So there's 6 or 8 books all together, and I might do all of them, but I'm for sure gonna do at least 3. I'm thinking probably 6. But yeah, we're not doing just Anne of Green Gables. We're going to do the series. So that's going to be fun. But that's next after this one. Now, this one is still like half done. It's a long book. So we still have a bunch more to go in this, but that's what's coming up. So exciting, something to look forward to. Okay, so Evelina in continuation. This is letter 16, right? I think it's 16. I'm not very good at Roman numerals. It's Roman numerals. See? Doesn't say 16, it says XVI, which is 16. So yeah, I got it right. Okay. Evelina in continuation, Holborn, June 18th. Madame Duval rose very late this morning, and at 1 o'clock we had just breakfasted when Miss Brangton, her brother, Mr. Smith, and Monsieur Dubois called to inquire after our healths. This civility in young Brangton, I much suspect, was merely the result of his father's commands, but his sister and Mr. Smith I soon found had motives of their own. Scarce had they spoken to Madame Duval when, advancing eagerly to me, "Pray, ma'am," said Mr. Smith, "who was that gentleman?" "Pray, cousin," cried Miss Brangton, "was not he the same gentleman you ran away with the night at the opera?" "Goodness, that he was," said young Brangton, "and I declare, as soon as ever I saw him, I thought I knew his face." "I'm sure I'll defy you to forget him," answered his sister. "If once you had seen him, he is the finest gentleman I ever saw in my life. Don't you think so, Mr. Smith?" "Why, you won't give the lady time to speak," said Mr. Smith. "Pray, ma'am, what is the gentleman's name?" "Willoughby, sir." "Willoughby? I think I have heard the name. Pray, ma'am, is he married?" "Oh, no, that he is not," cried Miss Brangton. "He looks too smart by a great deal for a married man. Pray, cousin, how did you get acquainted with him?" "Pray, miss," said young Brangton in the same breath, "what's his business?" "Indeed, I don't know," answered I. "Something very genteel, I dare say," added Miss Brangton, "because he dresses so fine." "It ought to be something that brings in a good income," said Mr. Smith, "for I'm sure he did not get that suit of clothes he had on for under 30 or 40 pounds, for I know the price of clothes pretty well. Pray, ma'am, can you tell me what he has a year?" "Don't talk no more about him," cried Madame Duval, "for I don't like to hear his name. I believe he's one of the worst persons in the world, for though I never did him no manner of harm, nor so much as hurt a hair of his head, I know he was an accomplice with that fellow Captain Mervyn to take away my life." Everybody but myself now crowding around her for an explanation. A violent rapping at the street door was unheard, and without any previous notice, in the midst of her narration, Sir Clement Willoughby entered the room. Aha, they're all talking about him. Well, that's mighty uncomfortable. They all started, and with looks of guilty confusion, as if they feared his resentment for having listened to Madame Duval, they scrambled for chairs, and in a moment were all formally seated. Sir Clement, after a general bow, singling out Madame Duval, said, with his usual easiness, "I have done myself the honour of waiting on you, madam, to inquire if you have any commands to Howard Grove, whither I am going tomorrow morning." Then, seeing the storm that gathered in her eyes, before he allowed her time to answer, he addressed himself to me, And if you, madame, have any with which you will honour me, I shall be happy to execute them. None at all, sir. None? Not to Miss Mervyn? No message? No letter? I wrote to Miss Mervyn yesterday by the post. My application should have been earlier, had I sooner known your address. Ma foi! Cried Madame Duval, recovering from her surprise. I believe never nobody saw the like of this. Of what, madame? Cried the undaunted Sir Clement, turning quick towards her. I hope no one has offended you. You don't hope no such a thing, cried she, half choked with passion and rising from her chair. This motion was followed by the rest, and in a moment everybody stood up. Still, Sir Clement was not abashed. Affecting to make a bow of acknowledgment to the company in general, he said, Pray, I beg, ladies, gentlemen, pray don't let me disturb you. Pray keep your seats. Pray, sir, said Miss Brangton, moving a chair towards him, won't you sit down yourself? You are extremely good, ma'am, rather than make any disturbance. And so saying, the strange man seated himself, as did in an instant everybody else, even Madame Duval herself, who, overpowered by his boldness, seemed too full for utterance. He then, and with as much composure as if he had been an expected guest, began to discourse on the weather, its uncertainty, the heat of the public places in summer, the emptiness of the town, and other such common topics. Nobody, however, answered him. Mr. Smith seemed afraid, young Brangton ashamed, Monsieur Dubois amazed, Madame Duval enraged, and myself determined not to interfere. All that he could obtain was the notice of Miss Brangton, whose nods, smiles, and attention had some appearance of entering into conversation with him. At length, growing tired, I suppose, of engaging everybody's eyes and nobody's tongue, addressed himself to Madame Duval, and to me he said, I regard myself as peculiarly unfortunate, ladies, in having fixed upon a time for my visit to Howard Grove, when you are absent from it. So I suppose, sir, so I suppose, cried Madame Duval, hastily rising, and the next moment as hastily seating herself. You'll be a-wanting of somebody to make your game of, and so you may think to get me there again, but I promise you, sir, you won't find it so easy a matter to make me a fool, and besides that, raising her voice, I've found you out, I assure you, so if ever you go to play your tricks upon me again, I'll make no more ado but go directly to a justice of peace. So, sir, if you can't think of nothing but making people ride about the country at all hours of the night just for your diversion, why, you'll find I know some justices as well as Justice Tyrrell. Sir Clement was evidently embarrassed at this attack, yet he affected a look of surprise and protested he did not understand her meaning. Well, cried she, if I don't wonder where people can get such impudence. If you say that, you'll say anything. However, if you swear till you're black in the face, I shan't believe you, for nobody shall persuade me out of my senses, that I'm resolved. Doubtless not, madame, answered he with some hesitation, and I hope you do not suspect I ever had such an intention. My respect for you. Oh, sir, you're vastly polite all of a sudden, but I know what it's all for. It's only for what you can get. You could treat me like nobody at Howard Grove, but now you see I've a house of my own, and you've a mind to wheedle yourself into it. But I seize your design, so you needn't trouble yourself to take no more trouble about that. For all you shall never get nothing at my house, not so much as a dish of tea. So now, sir, you see I can play you trick for trick. There was something so extremely gross in this speech that it even disconcerted Sir Clement, who was too much confounded to make any answer. Let me get my drink. It was curious to observe the effect which his embarrassment, added to the freedom with which Madame Duval addressed him, had upon the rest of the company. Everyone who before seemed at a loss how, or if at all, to occupy a chair, now filled it with the most easy composure, and Mr. Smith, whose countenance had exhibited the most striking picture of mortified envy, now began to recover his usual expression of satisfied conceit. Young Brangton, too, who had been apparently awed by the presence of so fine a gentleman, was again himself rude and familiar, while his mouth was wide distended into a broad grin at hearing his aunt give the bow such a trimming. Madame Duval, encouraged by this success, looked around her with an air of triumph and continued her harangue. And so, sir, I suppose you sought to have it all your own way, and to have come here as often as you pleased, and to have got me to Howard Grove again, on purpose to have served me as you did before. But you shall see I'm as cunning as you, so you may go and find somebody else to use in that manner, and to put your mask on and to make a fool of. For as to me, if you go to tell the stories about the tower again for months together, I'll never believe 'em no more, I'll promise you. Sir, if you think I like such jokes, you'll find I am no such person. I assure you, ma'am, upon my honour, I really don't comprehend. I fancy there is some misunderstanding. What, I suppose you'll tell me next you don't know nothing about the matter. Not a word, upon my honour. Oh, Sir Clement, thought I, is it thus you prize your honour? Pardy, cried Madame Duval, this is the most provokingest part of all. Why, you might as well tell me I don't know my own name. Here is certainly some mistake, for I assure you, ma'am. Don't assure me nothing, cried Madame Duval, raising her voice. I know what I am saying, and do you too, for did not you tell me all about the tower and about Monsieur Dubois? Why, Monsieur Dubois went never there, nor nigh it, and so it was all your own invention. May there not be two persons of the same name? The mistake was but natural. Don't tell me of no mistake, for it was all on purpose. Besides, did you not come, all in a mask, in the chariot door, and help to get me in that ditch? I promise you I've had the greatest minds in the world to take the law of you ever since. And if ever you do as much again, so I will, I assure you. Here Miss Brangton tittered. Mr. Smith smiled contemptuously, and young Brangton thrust his handkerchief into his mouth to stop his laughter. The situation of Sir Clement, who saw all that passed, became now very awkward, even to himself, and he stammered very much in saying, "Surely, madame, surely you cannot do me the injustice to think that I had any share in the misfortune which—" "Ma foi, sir," cried Madame Duval with increasing passion, "you'd best not stand talking to me at that rate. I know it was you, and if you stay there provoking me in such a manner, I'll send for a constable this minute." Young Brangton, at these words, in spite of all his efforts, burst into a loud laugh, and could either his sister or Mr. Smith, though with more moderation, forbear joining in his mirth. Sir Clement darted his eyes towards them with looks of the most angry contempt, and then told Madame Duval that he would not now detain her to make his vindication. Oh, I thought that was thunder for a second. It was like somebody rolling a garbage bin or something. I was like, is it raining? Okay. But would wait on her some time when she was alone. "Oh, pardy, sir," cried she, "I don't desire none of your company, and if you was the most boldest person in the world, you would not dare look me in the face." The ha-ha-has and he-he-he's grew more and more uncontrollable, as if the restraint from which they had burst had added to their violence. Sir Clement could no longer endure the object who excited them, and having no answer ready for Madame Duval, he hastily stalked towards Mr. Smith and young Brangton, and sternly demanded what they laughed at. Struck by the air of importance which he assumed, and alarmed at the angry tone of his voice, their merriment ceased as instantaneously as if it had been directed by clockwork, and they stared foolishly, now at him, now at each other, without making any answer but a simple "Nothing, sir." "Oh, pour le coup!" cried Madame Duval. "This is too much. Pray, sir, what business have you to come here ordering people that come to see me? I suppose next nobody must laugh but yourself." "With me, madame," said Sir Clement, bowing, "a lady may do anything, and consequently there is no liberty in which I shall not be happy to indulge you. But it has never been my custom to give the same license to gentlemen." Then, advancing to me, who had sat very quietly on a window during this scene, he said, "Miss Anville, I may at least acquaint our friends at Howard Grove that I had the honor of leaving you in good health. And then, lowering his voice, he added, For heaven's sake, my dearest creature, who are these people? And how came you so strangely situated? I beg my respects to all the family, sir, answered I, aloud, and I hope you will find them well. He looked at me reproachfully, but kissed my hand, and then, bowing to Madame Duval and Miss Brangton, passed hastily by the men and made his exit. I fancy he will not be very eager to repeat his visit, for I should imagine he has rarely, if ever, been before in a situation so awkward and disagreeable. Madame Duval has been all spirits and exultation ever since he went, and only wishes Captain Mervyn would call that she might do the same by him. Mr. Smith, upon hearing that he was a baronet, and seeing him drive off in a very beautiful chariot, declared that he would not have laughed upon any account had he known his rank, and regretted extremely having missed such an opportunity of making so genteel an acquaintance. Young Brangton vowed that if he had known as much he would have asked for his custom, and his sister has sung his praises ever since, protesting she thought all along he was a man of quality by his look. Letter 17. Evelina in continuation, June 21st. The last 3 evenings have passed tolerably quiet, for the Vauxhall adventures had given Madame Duval a surfeit of public places. Oh, I did look up the Vauxhall thing, and apparently it's a garden walk, and was a pretty cheap, like you paid a shilling to get in, and then you could walk around the gardens. But at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock, a bell rang at night, and everybody rushed to the display. And it was supposed to look, they called it the Cascade, and it was fake, but it was supposed to look like a waterfall. And so it was this mechanism that these two men cranked, and sheets of tin moved down this waterfall so that it looked like water, and it had all these flowers and birds, and then they would change it, like repaint some of the scenery and stuff so that it wasn't the same every year. And obviously it was in the 1700s. There's no pictures, and there were a couple of drawings, but they were very, I mean, you couldn't really, oh, I've got some stuck on me. You couldn't really see it very good, because it's just somebody sketched it here and there. But that's what the Cascade, when she was in the garden, that whole thing was, people would rush to see the Cascade, and it was every night at either 9 or 10, probably depending on the season. The bell would ring, and it would go for like, I think 10 minutes or 15 minutes. So everybody rush over there to see it, for that time. That's why the guy grabbed her hand and rushed her over to see the Cascade. So I looked it up. That's what it was. And I was thinking I might post pictures and stuff, but there wasn't really anything that gave a really very good idea what it was anyway. So I'm just telling you, that's what that was. Okay. Hi, baby. Oh, you coming to say hi? Hi. Oh, my goodness. Oh, you want a drink? Yeah, you can have a drink. Yum. Goodness. Who's that? Sweetest baby, huh? Yeah, you're so precious. Mama. What? Oh, okay. I love you. The Vauxhall adventures had given Madame Duval a surfeit of public places. Home, however, soon growing tiresome, she determined tonight, she said, to relieve her ennui by some amusement, and it was therefore settled that we should call upon the Brangtons at their house, and thence proceed to Marybone Gardens. But before we reached Snow Hill, we were caught in a shower of rain. We hurried into the shop, where the first object I saw was Mr. Macartney with a book in his hand, seated in the same corner where I saw him last. But his looks were still more wretched than before, his face yet thinner, and his eyes sunk almost hollow into his head. He lifted them up as we entered, and I even thought that they emitted a gleam of... You're so noisy! They emitted a gleam of joy. Involuntarily, I made to him my first curtsy. He rose and bowed, with a precipitation that manifested surprise and confusion. So the Mr. Macartney is the guy who was going to commit suicide, and she ran in and knocked the gun out of his hand and, saved his life. What are you doing? No. You coming over to say hi?
Could I have the phone?
Yeah, you can take it for a minute. In a few minutes we were joined by all the family except Mr. Smith, who fortunately was engaged. Had all the future prosperity of our lives depended upon the good or bad weather of this evening, it could not have been treated as a subject of greater importance. Hey, don't bite me! Ow! Don't bite me! Oh, son, you're such a handful.
Yeah.
Ah! You little stinker. Look, I need those. Yeah, those are my papers. Oh. Nope. You're a handful.
He's like,
no.
You don't need that computer
No.
to film. He's like,
No.
You don't
Hey,
need that
how come you're feeling all feisty?
film.
Farmer.
He's like, You don't need that computer to film.
Here, take that. What is it?
Two butterfly clips connected.
It's tree, actually.
Oh.
Sure, never anything was so unlucky and how provoking. It might rain forever if it would hold up now. These and such expressions, with many anxious observations upon the kennels, filled up all the conversation till the shower was over. What? Is it stuck on you? I'll help you. Here, I got you. Did it pinch you? Okay. Oh, is it pinching? How did you do that? Were they pinching your fingers? It's okay. It's okay. Oh, okay, never mind. Okay, see ya. Love you.
Bye-bye, Mama. Bye-bye.
And then a very warm debate arose whether we should pursue our plan or defer it for some finer evening. Miss Brangtons were for the former. Their father was sure it would rain again. Madame Duval, though she detested returning home, yet dreaded the dampness of the gardens. Monsieur Dubois then proposed going to the top of the house to examine whether the clouds looked threatening or peaceable. Miss Brangton, starting in this proposal, said they might go to Mr. Macartney's room if they would, but not to hers. This was enough for the brother, who, with a loud laugh, declared that he would have some fun, and immediately led the way, calling to us all to follow. His sisters both ran after him, but no one else moved. In a few minutes, young Brangton came halfway downstairs, calling, "Why don't you all come? Why, here's Paul's things all about the room." Mr. Brangton then went, and Madame Duval, who cannot bear to be excluded from whatever is going forward, was handed upstairs by Monsieur Dubois. I hesitated a few moments whether or not to join them, but soon perceiving that Mr. Macartney had dropped his book and that I engrossed his whole attention, I prepared from mere embarrassment to follow them. As I went, I heard him move from his chair and walk slowly after me, believing that he wished to speak to me, and earnestly desiring myself to know if, by your means, I could possibly be of any service to him. I first slackened my pace and then turned back. But though I thus met him halfway, he seemed to want courage or resolution to address me, for when he saw me returning, with a look extremely disordered, he retreated hastily from me. Not knowing what I ought to do, I went to the street door, where I stood some time, hoping he would be able to recover himself, but, on the contrary, his agitation increased every moment. He walked up and down the room in a quick but unsteady pace, seeming equally distressed and irresolute, and at length, with a deep sigh, he flung himself onto a chair. I was so much affected by the appearance of such extreme anguish that I could remain no longer in the room. I therefore glided by him and went upstairs, but ere I had gone 5 steps, he precipitately followed me, and in a broken voice called out, "Madam, for heaven's sake!" He stopped, but I instantly descended, restraining, as well as I was able, the fullest of my own concern. I waited some time in painful expectation for his speaking. All that I had heard of his poverty occurring to me, I was upon the point of presenting him my purse, but the fear of mistaking or offending him deterred me. Finding, however, that he continued silent, I ventured to say, Did you, sir, wish to speak to me?" "I did," cried he, with quickness, "but now I cannot. Perhaps, sir, another time. Perhaps if you recollect yourself. Another time, repeated he mournfully. Alas, I look not forward but to misery and despair. Oh, sir, cried I, extremely shocked, you must not talk thus. If you forsake yourself, how can you expect— I stopped. Tell me, cried he with eagerness, who you are, whence you come, and by what strange means you seem to be the arbitress and ruler of the destiny of such a wretch as I am. Would to heaven, cried I could serve you. You can. And how? Pray tell me how. To tell you is death to me, yet I will tell you. I have a right to your assistance. You have deprived me of the only resource to which I could apply, and therefore— Pray speak, cried I, putting my hand into my pocket. They will be, sorry, they will be downstairs in a moment. I will, madame. Will you? I think you will. May I then— He stopped and paused. Say, will you? Then suddenly turning from me, great heaven, I cannot speak. And he went back to the shop. I now put my purse in my hand, and following him said, if indeed, sir, I can assist you, why should you deny me so great a satisfaction? Will you permit me to— I dared not go on, but with a countenance very much softened, he approached me and said, your voice, madam, is the voice of compassion. Oh, do you want to come say hi? Woo! You're so sweet. What do you see? Do you like those ones? Hey, what's that? Oh, it's so pretty. A ball. Your voice, madam, is the voice of compassion. Such a voice as these ears have long been strangers to. Just then young Brenton called out vehemently to me to come upstairs. I seized the opportunity of hasting away, and therefore saying, Heaven, sir, protect you and comfort you, I let fall my purse upon the ground, not daring to present it to him, and ran upstairs with the utmost swiftness. Too well do I know you, my ever-honoured sir, to fear your displeasure for this action. I must, however, assure you I shall need no fresh supply during my stay in town. So she just gave him all the money she had. And now she's saying, you don't have to send me more. As I am at little expense, and hope soon to return to Howard Grove. Soon, did I say, when not a fortnight is yet expired of the long and tedious month I must linger out here. I had many witticisms to endure from the Branghtons upon account of me staying so long with the Scotch mope, as they call him, but I attended to them very little, for my whole heart was filled with pity and concern. I was very glad to find the Marybone scheme was deferred, another shower of rain having put a stop to the dissension upon this subject. The rest of the evening was employed in a most violent quarrelling between Miss Polly and her brother on account of the discovery made by the latter of the state of her apartment. We came home early, and I have stolen from Madame Duval and Monsieur Dubois, who is here forever, to write to my best friend. I am most sincerely rejoiced that this little relief was in my power to this unhappy man, and I hope it will be sufficient to enable him to pay his debts in this pitiless family. Oh, she's so sweet. So she's hoping he can eat because he looks thin and starving, and he hasn't been able to pay his rent, so they're going to kick him out, and he has nowhere to go. So she gave him all her money, and she hopes he can pay off his debts and survive a little bit. And then by the way, that was the end of that letter. And then the next letter is the Reverend Villers writing back to her. So we will do that one tomorrow. And we will go for tonight. And if you are enjoying the stories, then make sure you put a like so that I know that you enjoy it, and put comments, because that's fun. I enjoy the comments. I love seeing what people have to say. And we're gonna go because you need to go have a bath and go to bed. Say bye-bye. Say good night. Bye-bye. Good night. Good night. Good night. Good night. Now you're too concerned with where it went, huh? There it is. So cute. I didn't ever show about how big these would be. Let's see, the light's on this side, so I'll show you on this side where you can see it better. But yeah, that was in your ear. That's about the size they would be, these green ones. They're cute, I think. Very cool looking. Butterfly, so sparkly. Very cute. Okay. We will see you tomorrow or, whenever you come back to see the next one. It'll be here. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Bye. Yeah, you're so precious. Good night.